hello, I'm JulieJo. Welcome to my channel. If you're new here, welcome. I'm so glad that you're here. If you're not new here, welcome back. I'm a little sick today, so my energy might be low. And I wanted to do a short, sweet video that was straight to the point that I wouldn't have to do a lot for, and that is reacting to Girl Defined. They're mostly easy to react to, and then I might do a second video later this week or a live, one of the two. But their video was called 4 Things Every Christian Girl Needs to Know Before Getting Married. If you don't know my background, I grew up really religious to the point where I have a master's degree in theology and ministry, and I'm no longer religious. I've left that behind, but I paid a lot of money for the education, and so this is one of the ways I get to use it. I hope that you find this video entertaining and that it is helpful. I'd also appreciate if you support the channel for free simply by hitting the subscribe and the like button. If you have thoughts, which I'm sure many of you do, feel free to leave them in the comments below. Please don't go to their video. You can just stay right here. That's what the comment section is for. All right, let's get started.
That we're gonna fall in love. I don't care about you and him. I don't care about what has been. I only care about your soft skin. Cause we're still sleeping in my head. I don't care about you and him. I don't care about what has been. I only care about your soft skin. Cause we're still sleeping in my head.
All right, like I said, Girl Defined, 4 things every Christian girl needs to know before getting married. Let's watch.
What's up, y'all? It's Bethany and Kristen, and we're going to be talking about 4 things every Christian girl needs to know before getting married. I have been married for 6 years.
Coming up on 14.
Wait, that shocked me.
14. Really soon, couple months.
Oh my goodness. And I'm thinking back.
shocks me too.
For me, it's not that far away before I got married. Can you even remember the days?
Yes, I can. But it was a long time ago. A lot has changed.
Okay, before getting married, I got married at 30, and I was hopeful to get married at like 19 or 20. Unfortunately, it did not happen for me that way, but I'm so grateful for.
Why do you think it didn't happen for you that way? What's her name? Kristen? What's the other girl's name's Kristen? I don't know what the fuck her name is. She's probably the most annoying out of the two, in my opinion. The first video I did about them was recent. She was so annoying throughout that entire video and just like not a girl's girl. And I can't stand people who aren't girls, okay? If you're not a girl's girl, what the fuck are you doing? She's the opposite of girl's girl, and it's so annoying. And you also can tell that these two sisters really don't like each other. So I'm curious, as we get to know her and get to watch them, the personalities of them, I can see a little bit shining through, but I don't know them super well. I've watched a few videos over them, but like I haven't watched them in the way that I've watched Courtney Shortney, Kelsey Ray, Brooke, Ashley Banks, all these other people that I've watched for years. So I'm curious to see their personality shine through even more. And I can tell why she didn't get married for a long time, because she's just rude. She's inconsiderate, rude, and I mean, listen to them talk. If you watch the other video, you know why.
Or Dave, the man I married, and my 2 sweet kids now. But I think back and I'm like, as prepared as I felt, like getting married at 30, all those decades to prepare, there are still some things where it's like, I did not.
Decades, babe. Decades to prepare for marriage. She's acting like her entire life is supposed to be for marriage. And honestly, in most religions, for a woman, like a cis woman, that is what life is supposed to be. You're supposed to prepare your entire life, even as a child, for getting married and then having kids and helping those kids grow and then being a grandmother, and that's it. That's what you're taught to do, which is obviously not right and not what we are made for. Obviously, hello. I find it interesting that she said decades, because it is true that in religion, you grow up and your entire life is based around who you're going to marry. And when you think about it, it's so backwards and so terrible, like as a child, that's what you're focused on, especially in a hyper-religious family or church or whatever. And so for her to say that gives me a little look into that, and honestly probably how stressed and how jealous of her sister that she's been her entire life until the age of 30 when she got married, which I think is a normal age to get married. As someone who got married when they were 22, 23-ish, you wait. We're in the process of divorce, by the way. There's a reason people wait. There's a reason these things happen. And, you know, if you don't wait and you get married early and y'all live a happy life and blah, 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 great, good for y'all. Awesome. But as we see, 50% of divorces fail. And for mine in particular is that we got married before our frontal lobes were even closed, and we've changed a lot, and we're just not happy together anymore, and that's why we're getting divorced. So I think for her, I wonder if there's some jealousy also from the other sister, and the idea that she had a decade longer of living the single life, or like living a life where she didn't have kids, didn't have to stress about having kids, didn't have to stress about having a husband to take care of, because that's what they are made for in their religion. And so I'm curious if there's jealousy on both parts, and that's why they don't really like each other. And we can tell, and many people have talked about it all over social media. And I wonder if that's part of it. There's jealousy on both parts of them. I wonder if that's part of why they dislike each other.
Realize once getting married how crucial some aspects of character and growth were needed. So today we want to uncover those things and talk about them with you as a single girl. Maybe you're dating and maybe you're like, I'm already engaged. I'm already heading there.
I got that ring on my
I got that ring, but maybe not. So this is your chance. This is your chance as a single girl to go, okay, right now I can work on these things before getting married so I can be better prepared, as prepared as you can be.
I know. Well, I felt the same way. Looking back, the 4 things that we're going to share are honestly, I will say from looking back 14 years ago, I can remember I wasn't as prepared as I thought I was. And that's the thing is I think sometimes we think like, I've got this, no problem. Like I've read all the marriage books, I've received all the counsel, like I am set. But these 4 things were things that were a struggle on the other side of marriage in different ways and in different degrees, but things that I really wished I had honed in a little bit more on, taken time to really think through, process, deal with some of this stuff before getting married, and then kind of discovering on the other side, like, oh, okay.
Yeah, seriously.
And then you grow and mature through it, Lord willing. But I wish I hadn't been a little more prepared.
Yeah. Well, and I think you can only like, so I got married at 30 and I remember another friend of mine, we were both like the same age and both of us were like not married and we wanted to be. And I remember this friend sharing with me, she was like, just because I'm not married, I don't want to get like behind. Basically like, okay, my other friends are like growing and being sanctified because they have this person that's like, you know, in their life all the time. And so they're working through things. They're, you know, challenging each other because you have to like sacrifice some of your wants and desires when you are that closely connected with another person. Somebody else's opinion matters. And she was like, I want to like learn and grow and like push myself as much as possible. So I'm not like getting married at 30 and like, you know, like a 19-year-old, you know?
Like
and
your
so,
maturity levels,
yeah,
19, but your age, because you...
So I thought that was a good point. And I would say like as someone who got married older, that did help. And I do think I was more mature at 30 than I was at 20. But at the end of the day, I think that you know, it's just like having kids. You can read all the books on parenting. You can, but like sometimes it's the experience of actually being there that actually grows you the most. But I do think that you can prepare and you can grow in the character and you can have tools. So when you're faced with the situations, when you're faced with that other side, like you're actually in marriage, you have something to pull from rather than like, well, I don't even know what to do. It's like, no, maybe these tools we're going to give you right now will actually help you when you are on the other side.
Yes. Okay.
I guess this plays not only in what I see them talking about and in marriage in a religious aspect, but also in my experience in marriage too. I do agree that in marriage, there are definitely compromises. There are things like that that are important, right? If you're living with someone, even with your best friends, you have to compromise. With people, if you are a human being with another human being in your life that you love, whether it's a romantic, friendship, family, whatever kind of love it is, I think that there will always be compromise in some aspects. Maybe in some instances, maybe not always, but sometimes. So we've all experienced compromise. And maybe you disagree, but I think when it comes to things that you desire and that you want and that you need, you deserve those things. As a human being who cares about people, as a human being at their core, I think that you inherently have those desires and wants and needs, and that you deserve them. If you're a shitty person and, you know, you're manipulative and your desires and wants and needs are ridiculous and like you need to go to therapy and you're not, but okay, that's a different conversation. But I'm talking just as a basic human who cares for other humans, who has a desire of certain types of love, of certain types of respect, of certain types of things in their relationship, and the person you're with is not meeting that desire, someone else will. It's okay to go find that in someone else, of course, being separated from the other person, divorced, broken up, whatever, and figure that out. Fun fact, religion is made up. Listen, if you're religious and you disagree, that's fine. We can disagree on that. But if you're not religious, or if you are, but you have the bigger picture view, like you're spiritual, but you have the bigger picture view. Some men, hundreds of years ago, made this thing to benefit them, right? Wrote this book. And then some men in the 1900s took that book, took some of those Greek and Hebrew words and manipulated those words to benefit them even more. And now you read it and live by it. It's just something that we need to understand. It's something that we need to grasp. That's what happened. Whether there's a God, there's a Jesus, whatever, that's what happened. And for me personally, I'm not religious, so I don't read the Bible anymore. And if I do, it's more for like knowledge of the context and how to combat that. For someone who like reads it and then uses it for their benefit and is manipulative and cherry picks, I read it to combat their stuff and use my education, whatever. I say all of that to say, if you're the person you're married to, the person you're with right now, you've had conversations about it, you've explained it, you've communicated, y'all both communicated well, and it's just not working, then guess what? It's just not working. And that's okay. You can get divorced. You can. Does it suck? Is it hard? Is it different for everybody? Yes. I watched my mom go through one of the worst divorces that I've ever seen. And then I'm going through a much better, much easier divorce. So like, yes, divorce sucks. And there's lots of things that suck with it. And some people don't have the proper support to get a divorce. People don't, yes, people get into very difficult positions where that's not necessarily the best thing for them and their kids, or that's not necessarily possible. And that sucks. It's horrible. But as someone who's had to experience that and gone through it on the other side, I mean, yes, I am lucky and privileged to have been able to do that in the way that we've done it. For those of you that I can't express to you how life changes in the most magical, terrible, wonderful way possible. It's kind of terrifying, but in a positive way. I don't really know how to express that to the fullest, but I think that me being sick, I'm just kind of rambling on, but I just want to get across to people that yes, you deserve your desires. You deserve to be loved the way you want to be loved. Don't let people who let religion power over them, manipulate them, make you think that you don't deserve it. It's fucking ridiculous. Also, shout out to my editor. Y'all should hear everything I just said, but you won't, thank God, because my editor's the best and she's gonna make sense of it.
Let's dive in. Drum roll. Okay, number 1, how to prepare now before you get married. This is a huge truth that is something I think most people just kind of brush over, and it is that sexual struggles don't disappear after marriage. I would say in the Christian community, there is somewhat of a mindset of like, save sex for marriage, which is biblical and good, great mindset. But this idea that save sex for marriage, and then when you get to the other side, any sort of other sexual struggles that you had, whether lust or struggles with masturbation, different addictions, that those are just going to go away because now you have.
I just realized why they hate their life. Because they don't masturbate. Okay, and here's my thought. Why did men write that women shouldn't masturbate? Why did men write these things? So that it would force women to want to have sex with men. And I think that's so fucked up. When a cis man writes it, you kind of know why. And if you're a cis man watching this, listen. You know. But they simply just want women to be even open to the idea of having sex with that man. That's why I think. And that's crazy because it's not like real life truth. Like you can masturbate, you can watch porn, you can do whatever. You can do that shit. If you're not hurting anybody and they're not hurting you, you do what you want to do. Guess what? It's not sinful. And as someone who was religious for a really long time, I had to work through this. It's not sinful. It's okay to not have sex with anybody if you don't want to. It's not sinful to do that either. It's okay to not want children. It's okay to not want to get married. It's okay to not want these things. It's okay to date more than one person. Obviously, if you're like more ethical non-monogamy and open about it. It's okay to be poly. It's okay. These things are okay. These things are fine. But the Bible and religion and the way that we've been taught historically and culturally is that those things are not fine and those things are wrong. But they're not. They're not wrong. They're fine. Why do people care so much? Because it makes people uncomfy. Because people get jealous. Because people get angry that they don't understand. Same with people being LGBTQ+, and then there's homophobic people. They're uncomfy because they're ignorant. They're angry. They don't understand. Maybe it's more of a projection of like they are feeling those feelings and they think it's wrong. And you know what? Most of it leads back to religion. Anyway, damn, I am on a roll of just fucking chatting up and not shutting up. It is a reaction channel, but still.
Sex and marriage. You have the marriage bed. And so that's going to fulfill all of these urges and desires, and those other struggles are just going to
Does that mean there's also a marriage table, a marriage floor, a marriage couch? Shut up, JJ.
automatically disappear. And that is not true. I have been very open with some of my different sexual struggles in singleness. And I can say from a personal testimony that on the other side of marriage, those temptations and the temptation for engaging in some of those sexual struggles did not automatically go away. It wasn't like, oh, now that I can have sex whenever with my husband, these things are no longer even a temptation. That wasn't the case. And I was under the impression that when I got to the altar, when I had saved sex for marriage and finally got to that place, that it was going to just like, boom, I was going to be this perfectly pure woman and never have any temptations or struggles again. But here's the deal. Sexual sin doesn't go away just by being able to have sex in marriage, because sexual sin, it's just that. It's a sin. It's a heart issue. And our hearts have to be dealt with, and God has to change our hearts through the process of confession, repentance, walking alongside other believers, getting...
You know what I find interesting is the shame they put on women when it comes to quote unquote sexual sin, when in reality, men are the ones that are hurting women, children, so on and so forth, are essaying women and children. And they're the ones in the church doing these things much more than any drag queen or drag king or gay person will ever do, by the way. They're the ones hurting people. They're the ones, quote unquote, sexually sinning. But the shame for them is nothing near the shame for women in religion. And it's so fucked up. When you really break down religion, all it is misogyny and a place for cis straight men to reign powerful. To be powerful, to reign supreme. And for me, it blows my mind because they're talking to younger women, younger religious women. And these younger religious women are learning these things that they're saying as what's true and what's right. They're not. But I didn't know that at 22. I didn't know that at 23, 24. But overall, the shame for women in religion when it comes to sex, or really anything, but especially sex, is so much worse than for men, when men are the ones that are harming people, when men are the ones that deserve to be shamed for what they're doing. I'm not saying that there are not women that have not SA'd people before, obviously, but what I am saying is that happens a lot more with men, and usually religious men, and usually religious men who are leaders of the church.
Mentorship, growing, God changing us, like there is a heart change process that has to take place in order to deal with sin. And if you don't deal with sin on this side of the altar, just assuming it's going to go away, then guess what? Yeah, maybe the honeymoon, maybe the first few months of marriage, you're like, wow, that isn't even a struggle. But as time goes on, I will guarantee Satan is not going to let you off the hook that easy. Our flesh is not that, like, our flesh is weak, and we will naturally default to some of those sinful habits and patterns we had before if we have not dealt with them. And so that is something that I just want to shout from the rooftops. Like, if you are struggling with a sexual sin, a habitual sin, something that's just here and there, don't wait until the other side of marriage to assume it's going to go away or think I'll address it later. Even if you're like, marriage isn't even on the horizon for me, address it now. Go to God's word. We have some incredible resources. I mean, an entire book called Sex, Purity, and the Longings of a Girl's Heart, written for married or single women, but primarily addressing a lot of the struggles that single women have. Sexual struggles, we go to the nitty gritty. That would be an incredible resource. And then some amazing instant digital downloadable books like Battling Sexual Temptation is one of them you can find on Girl Define. But get help now. Pursue freedom now. Don't wait until the other side of marriage.
And we can link some of...
As human beings, our bodies tell us what they need, what they want, their desires, all of that. They tell us those things. And religion forces us to not give your body those needs, those desires, and those wants. It feels wrong. And I could go deeper into that, but I'm not going to, because I feel like I've talked a lot about this already. But we can have more discussion in the comments. I think religion forces women to go against what they actually want and feel a lot of the time, and grooms women to act and be a certain way as they get older, so that hopefully their body, their mind will be so manipulated and contorted a certain way that their body won't do those things that bodies want.
Those below, so you're like, you can just go tap them right now. Okay, the other truth number 2 is that your future husband will not make all of your dreams come true. Da, 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 da. Now, I absolutely love my husband so much. Like, I am so grateful to be with him, and like, of all the men in the world, it's just like, I love being married to him. But I also knew before getting married that no matter who I married, that they could not completely satisfy me, because as Christians, we know, like Kristen and I, we both knew this before getting married, that God is the only one that can ultimately satisfy us. Like, of all the wonderful things and people in the world, if you look to someone or something, ultimately they will disappoint us because they are not perfect. Stuff is not perfect. People are not perfect. And I know, as wonderful as my husband thinks I am too, both of us fail each other. Both of us disappoint each other. Both of us do things that, like, annoy the other person.
No way.
As much as like we love each other and care for each other and want each other's best, we're both human. And sometimes I'm like for me, I'm like, why am I acting this way? I'm acting like such a brat. Like, what's my problem? You know? And it's like, oh my goodness. And so if you go into marriage thinking like, you know, I know a lot of people who are like, like my family, when I could just get away from my family and like be with my Prince Charming and be with my true love, then everything's just going to be perfect. And we're just going to be a hand in hand forever. And like, yes, you can, your character and your love for each other and the power of the Holy Spirit can give you a beautiful relationship, but again, you're still human. And so I just want to encourage you to make sure that you are ultimately looking to Christ, finding your identity in him and not looking.
You know what I've realized as someone who's been in that place where it's like, oh my gosh, you know, I wonder what life would be like if this didn't happen or this didn't happen or this didn't happen, especially when I was religious. As someone who's in a place where I'm like, oh my gosh, I see the beauty and the magic of life, and I see the things that could happen and might happen, and I see where I'm at right now and that I love it. And that I'm not trying to imagine or be like mentally in a different world, because I love the world that I'm currently in now, like my friends and the people around me and the people I'm dating. Like I love this world that I'm present in. I realized that the world that I was trying to get away from before was simply because I was so unhappy. I was so miserable that I would read books every day to try to be in a different world mentally. I spent all of 2024 trying to transport my brain into a different world so that I wouldn't have to live in the one that I was a part of. I was not present. I was not available in any sense of the word. I pulled away from everybody. And when I realized, and this was before my divorce, and then after my divorce, like after we separated and I started to be more present in my world, things were very difficult, because I had pushed everyone away. Things were very lonely because I'd pushed everyone away. I was not entering that world in the book that I was reading anymore as often. I was trying to build the world that I was a part of here, trying to be present in that world. And now, 9 months later, my life is so beautiful and hard and wonderful and difficult, and I cherish it all. I am so grateful for that. So I feel horrible for people listening to them and hearing, you know, you are imagining this whole different world where your life would be, where you'd be so much happier and blah, blah, blah. And that's just not real. It's just not real. You're trying to imagine life where you're away from your kids and your husband and blah, blah, blah. And it's sad because there are a lot of mothers who do regret having children. You don't need to be ashamed of that. It's normal to have that feeling because we're pushed into the idea of having to have children. Like that's what we're made to do. And then there are people who love that they have children. If you can't love the life and be present in the life that you're living now, and of course there are some things that make that very difficult that are out of your control. Grief is one of them. And when I say life, I don't mean you have to love the government or the things going on. I mean, like, I obviously wish and push for change in those areas, but like my friends, I adore. My people, I adore and love so greatly. My home, my dogs. I mean, I cherish life so much more now, and I feel bad for those that can't or won't, simply because they are so religious and they're being taught these things that's just not realistic. And I also believed that it was not realistic to live that life that I dreamt of, and it was just a very melancholy life, and I just felt melancholy all the time, at all points in my life. And I thought when I was like really happy that that's what happiness was, but I realized that it's not. I mean, there's so much I could say and go into. I don't even know if I'm on topic anymore, but I think it's really important to share that, because when I heard that from other people, I realized that there was a life out there that I really could love and was able to go after that. And I think people, especially Christian women, Mormon women, very religious women, are taught that that's not real. That like the life that for you to love is not real. Like you have to love this life that you were taught that you were supposed to live. And that's just not necessarily true. Like you can live a different life. For some people, they're not in a position to be able to do that, and that's horrible and awful. For some people, they can, but they're scared, which was me for a while. And for some people, they're very, very happy where they're at, and they're very happy with this, and they don't want to live a different life, and that's fine too. And I understand the idea of like living this life of like a Prince Charming and stepping away from all your responsibilities. I mean, that's not real, obviously. I also think that they try to make sure that your happiness is not in the forefront at all. Like it's in the very back of your mind, and that your happiness doesn't matter as much as your husband's or your children, when it does.
To marriage to solve all your problems, not looking to a man to complete you, because you will ultimately be disappointed. I mean, if you think marriage is the end all to be all, that's like, why do people get divorced? Why do people have affairs? Why does a sin still exist? Is there someone who was like these celebrities you see and you're like, oh my goodness, they were so in love, and now like 3 years later they're in this like divorce battle of the nations.
Yes.
You know, it's like, because they can't satisfy each other. And when you look to each other, it's like you're asking the other person to do something for you that they were not created to do. So don't put that burden on your future husband's head. Don't ask him to be everything for you when he can't. Don't ask him to be God when he can't be God. Look to God for that. Look to God and say, God, you satisfy me. Please be everything for me. Be my identity. I find my identity in you. Be my person.
In religion, I find that they have the expectations of women compared to men are much different. Women have a lot more expectations. They have the expectation of keeping everyone happy, healthy, and okay, when men have the expectation to make money for the home. There is a much larger burden on the women's shoulders than there are on the men's shoulders, and it's not fair, and it's not right, and it's not okay. And I feel like when they're talking about God and like to turn to God and to not put all these expectations on your husband, they'll never say the same thing to a man about the wife. They're meant to have expectations about their wife. They're meant to like have all these expectations and them to be met by the wife. And it's just terrible.
Purpose, be the reason I live. And then when you go into marriage, you're able to view them as within this covenant as this lifelong husband and companion and partner and teammate and this person that you could experience love with and intimacy with, but you're not asking them to be God. And I think that is a huge, like, it's hard because you're like, you have to take the weight off the relationship a little bit almost to make it all that it can be. And so I just really encourage you to make sure that you have a biblical perspective going into marriage.
And even 14 years later, I will say my temptation is to still fall into that of like looking to Zach to be everything. And then I know when I see that expectation happening, I'm like, something's out of line in my heart. And I have to do all the things that you just said again. Okay, number 3.
But then I think that when people talk about people being everything, when it comes to wives talking about men, like meeting their expectations, it's simply putting the dishes away. It's simply picking up the kids from school. It's simply putting the tire on the car because there's a flat one. It's simply doing these different things that they don't do when asked, and also have to be asked to do. That's what I see a lot, not necessarily like in non-religious relationships. Of course, it's there in our society as men and women, you know, like the societal view of men and women, even though I think that is changing. As a religious point, it is like the father is still a child, but a child that makes money and can drink beer. And I don't like this idea that men just have the right to be dumb. They don't. The phrasing I think of when I think of this is weaponized incompetence, and it's also known as strategic incompetence. And this is what it says the definition is. A behavior where someone pretends to be bad at a task or deliberately performs it poorly to avoid doing it in the future. This tactic, often passive-aggressive in nature, shifts responsibility onto others and can lead to imbalances in relationships and workplaces. And we see this in relationships, especially when it comes to religious relationships between men and women. Oftentimes I see men are taught that it's okay to use this weaponized incompetence so that the women will just do it without having to have the stress of asking once or twice or 3 times. And then the men act like that they're nagging and being annoying, when in reality, the woman just doesn't want to do everything. They're in a marriage where 2 people are supposed to give the same, or 2 people are supposed to work together as a team, as they just said, the Girl Defined people just said, as a team. But one person on the team is not really wanting to. And so the other person has to pick up the slack. It's like in high school when you're in a group project and the majority of people in the group project, or there's 2 people in the group project and one person doesn't want to do shit and the other one has to do it, because if not, they're going to get a bad grade. If not, the children won't get fed. If not, things won't get done. If not, their ability to be able to go get groceries or whatever. Like, if not, things will rock the boat, and then the mother will be looked at as the problem in this, when really it's the weaponized incompetence of the man. And remember, I'm talking on a binary right now, on a binary gender role right now in the religious sphere. So keep that in mind.
You have to get rid of the individualistic mindset. That's a mouthful.
Yes, I know.
The individualistic mindset. We live in a culture, it's no surprise, you know this, we know this, where independence is praised above all else.
Especially for women.
Especially for women. Like the powerful boss lady, go-getter girl is the independent one who doesn't need anyone, who shouldn't rely on anybody, who can do everything for herself because she's got it, she's successful, she doesn't need a man. I mean, that is the message and the mantra of so many of the modern messages today.
And they're even saying like that they're acting like she doesn't need a man. What they're saying is you do need a man, you do need to be a mom, and you need to be a wife. No, you don't. Now, the boss babe shit's overused and like literally the opposite of what I teach on here. But I also think that there's misogyny in the boss babe idea and like the MLM world and all of that. So I don't even want to get into that because we're not talking about that. But you don't need a man. You can just be you. You can be individual in the way that you do things. You can have a man and also be individual.
So often, without even realizing it, we can, in one hand, long for this relationship and marriage, you know, as we look forward and we think one day, I want that, I desire that, I want this man, my lifelong partner, all the beautiful things you just said, but we don't even realize on the other hand that we are cultivating and buying into this mindset that we actually don't need anybody else, that we should be completely independent. And then we get married, and guess what? There is a massive clash because now you're in marriage where you have this other person that biblically we're called to be dependent upon one another in a healthy way, in a healthy biblical way where we are serving each other, we're relying on each other,
sacrificing
we're working as a
for
team,
each other.
we are sacrificing for each other. We are not just doing two things. We're not like roommates, each living our independent lives and then coming together every now and then for meals and whatever. Like our lives are completely intertwined in every single way. And so it does us a disservice if we buy into this mindset that we don't need anyone so wholeheartedly and then we go into marriage. I think it's a shocking wake-up call for a lot of women and can be a massive adjustment. Okay, you might be saying, I see that. Yes, I kind of have some of that in my heart. Well, what do I do? Here's my recommendation. I think one of the best places to practice dependence is within the body of Christ. So within a solid gospel-centered, Bible-teaching church where you are committed in those relationships, where you are being vulnerable in small group, where you're sharing your heart, where you are inviting people into your life, where you're confessing sin with one another, where you are not practicing a lifestyle of complete independence and individualistic lifestyle where you don't need anybody, because even in singleness, that's not the life that God has for us. We are called to be in a body, living with one another in that intimate life on life, walking daily kind of thing. And so if you practice that now, then guess what? When you get married, that will be a lot more natural in that relationship.
Okay, the last truth that we have to share with you is that the character you have before marriage is the same character you will have after marriage. And this is probably the most important one because the woman that you are before you walk down the aisle truly is like the woman that you're going to be after you get to the other
woman you
other
take
side.
into the honeymoon.
Yes, and there's just this like fantasy idea that somehow when you put that ring on and you put that veil on, you go on your honeymoon, that your character just transforms, all of your sin, all of your habits, everything just becomes like perfect. I don't know why. It's like,
And this is one of the reasons that you're groomed from a very young age to be this gospel, Holy Spirit led wife and mother, and why that you are taught to be this quaint and quiet and kind and loving and generous, and I will not be mean, and I will be timid, and pretty much hold your opinions back and let the men speak for you, and just not be who you are. You're all meant to be this like uniformed type of person. And this is one of the reasons why you're taught at a young age. So by the time you get married, you are this person that they want you to be, this type of wife they want you to be. And so that's kind of what they're saying here, but they're just using different terms, in my opinion.
we live in this crazy world where we see other couples and we see that that's not true. That doesn't happen. But somehow when we look at ourselves, we're like, I will be the one, my character, because I don't know, we just have all these ridiculous ideas. I know.
Me.
But here's the deal. Like, this is why it's so important to work on your character. Go to the word and seek God and see how he wants to transform your life to become more like him, to grow and to be sanctified. Like what you were saying just a second ago about being within the body of Christ and being plugged into a small group, doing that life on life where you can grow, where you can repent, where you can be sanctified. Those sorts of things are going to help and change and mold and grow your character. And that is the person you get to bring into marriage and the person that you get to continue growing and sanctifying after marriage. And so do not neglect your spiritual growth. Do not neglect putting people around you that can challenge you and can say, hey, like, have you thought about this? I mean, I spent several months with a local biblical counselor mentor, and I found her through the Association of Certified Biblical Counselors. And I think that their link is linked on like every podcast we post, because we get DMs and like emails every single day, like, who's the counselor Bethany use? I'm not going to tell you the specifics because I'm very,
it's personal
and jealous of her. I got to keep her for my few locals because her schedule is very full. But anyways, getting to meet with someone, an older godly woman, it was literally very straightforward, very black and white. Like, she was not messing around. Just like sometimes I would come in and she'd be like, like, you're no better than this. Like, what does the Bible say? And you need that person in your life who can really challenge you and who can challenge your struggles, who can encourage you, who can say, you're being really dumb, you need those straightforward people. So I would encourage you to find someone in your life who can be that for you, because the person you are before marriage, the character you are before marriage is the same character you're going to be after you get married. And I just want to,
what I find interesting is that they like to surround themselves with like-minded, very religious people when Jesus didn't do that. Jesus was around people who didn't know religion, who didn't know God really, who were sinners and like blatantly sinners. He would actually do the opposite. He would argue with like the Pharisees, and he would argue with the religious people who were acting like they were living for God when in reality they weren't. Jesus was very opposite of what people are taught to do these days, but then they're also taught to be like Jesus, and then they portray Jesus in a way that he wasn't. And it blows my mind how brainwashed they are, because they're forcing themselves and intentionally being around people who believe the exact same things they do and not stepping out of that at all. It's so interesting to me.
Encourage you, like, of all the things that I could recommend for you to do, our book Love Defined is a book that we wrote when I was single and you were married.
Yeah.
And so it's for single women specifically. If you want to be challenged, if you want to grow, I think that, like, if I could go back in time as a single woman, that's probably the number one book that I would have benefited from, like, in my single years.
All right, guys, to recap super quick. Number 1, sexual struggles don't disappear after marriage. Number 2, your future husband will not make all of your dreams come true. Number 3, you have to get rid of the individualistic mindset. And number 4, the character before marriage is the same character you're going to have after marriage. We hope this was helpful for you guys. We love you and we are cheering you on. Come back and join us next week for another episode of...
All right, I'm done with them. I said a lot of stuff. I don't even remember what I said. I'd love to hear your thoughts on what they said below. I know y'all have a lot of things to say about a lot of what they say, so I'm curious, and I would love to have more discussion below from everybody about it. Don't forget, if you want to support the channel for free, you can simply hit the subscribe button and the like button. And there's also a monetary support if you want in my memberships. You're welcome to that too, but obviously you don't have to. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a wonderful day. I'll see you next time. Don't join an MLM, and please don't take advice from them. Bye.
Show you what I'm all about. Make up for what we lost. Tonight is the night that we're gonna fall in love. I don't care about you and him. I don't care about what has been. I only care about yours.